What's up, Belen? Mike Davidson in the house. Thanks
What's
for coming.
happening, baby?
Brett Duffy, Jorge in the squad, Anna, Carlos. We got Musei on. Excellent, excellent. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I was thinking about it this morning, and thinking a lot about what Ben said yesterday, and just discipline and repeating the same thing over and over, and how monotonous it can get, and pounding the stone, so to speak, right? And today is a testament. Everyone who's here on the call was there yesterday. So today is pounding the stone, right? It's one more. People, yesterday people get out of there and they say that was awesome. That was a great event. It was super special. I learned a lot. And then they go back to their normal day-to-day routine, right? So we're of the school of thought that we're going to do one more, right? We're going to pound the stone. We're going to keep getting better. And this isn't something that we do when we feel like it. It's not something that we do when it's convenient. It's something we do every damn day, right? And speaking of one more, I got my good friend Jordan. He's a personal coach of mine, great friend, just a hell of a guy. Most of you guys got to meet him yesterday, and he doesn't do one more. Like yesterday, we went on a run and we did one more mile, and the day before we did 5 instead of 4. Jordan will do one more 100 miles, which is an interesting fact about Jordan. He's a coach. He's a speaker. He's an all-around hell of a guy. He's an ultra marathoner. I'm talking north of 200 miles at once. What was your biggest run this year, Jordan? Was it 260 miles?
Yeah, it was 260. So that was an unsanctioned event, but it was 260. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the craziest part about Jordan is he doesn't do it for hype, or he doesn't do it with even a group of people. He does it to beat himself. You know what I mean? And when we look at this is a lot of this is about running our own race, right? This isn't about competing against anyone else on this call, anyone else in this industry, anyone else in this lifetime. It's literally about doing you and just doing it a little bit better, right? So without further ado, Jordan has a lot to cover today. Thanks for making the time. Thanks for coming to Denver and getting to meet all these awesome people that mean so much to me on this call. And we appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was eye-opening yesterday to look around the room and see all these, successful individuals listening to Ben and kind of taking the principles that he's put together to truly understand how to compete at a different level. And I followed that up with conversations with you, and like we had this morning, where at some point in life, you have to understand that the true competition is within, right? Yeah, it has to be you versus you in every single way. And the more you can compete with yourself, the further you're actually going to get along. What I've found so far is, with myself, when you compete against somebody else, it's beautiful. It's healthy to have competition with, amongst people. But at the end of the day, I find that you actually limit yourself by competing against other people, because you find yourself only living up to the expectation of what maybe their maximum is. And even if you end up, you and I, Brett, if we end up competing in a race and my goal is to beat you, I'm probably not going to reach my max potential, because I'm just going to do enough to beat you. I'm actually not going to do enough to beat myself. And so I find that switching the mindset from I'm competing with others to it's me versus me becomes kind of the next step in the journey. So if you could do, one thing today a little bit better, I would say focusing on being the best you and taking that principle into everything that you do. I find that in races with me, if it's a 5K that's being held at the same time as a 10K and a marathon, and you've got a blend of runs going on. If I'm running the 100 miler and somebody that's running the marathon happens to catch me and run by me, in my mind, if I'm not competing with just myself, I could possibly end up doing very badly in the race, because when they pass me, I'm making the assumption that I've got to compete with them. Well, we're running two different races. We're on two different journeys. We're on two different paths. And so if I can stick to the game plan of, you know what, no matter who passes me, no matter whom I pass, this is me and this watch, and that's it. It's us versus us. And when I take those principles and apply them to other avenues of life, I see the growth. And then you can reflect back on it and say, okay, now I truly understand what competition is. And if I make every day me versus me, the only way is up. You're never going to trip on anything behind you, like Ben says. You will continue to move your feet and move them in the right direction. A quote that I love, and it's a very simple one, and it kind of helps you dial this in, is your hard is not my hard. And that's James Lorance, Iron Cowboy, who preaches that one. I love it because it tells you, be where your feet are right now. And the first step in the process of making anything, you versus you, is you have to understand, where am I even at in my journey, right? So if you are a realtor, or if you're in the mortgage brokerage game, where are you at in your journey? Don't worry about where Brett is at. Don't worry about where Carla's at. Just, where are you at? And where is it you want to be? And what are the steps you need to take each and every single day to make this competition, you versus you, to get there? Because if you simply compare yourself to other people, and I'm only trying to become, what Sally next door is, I'm really and truly limiting myself on my true capabilities, I believe. So I don't know if you've experienced that with yourself, Brett. If going
Absolutely.
from competition with others to then competition within yourself, and kind of feeling what that difference is.
I just love the analogy. If you're going out there to run a marathon and you don't know anyone else's race, right? And someone just absolutely blows you, like just smashes you out of the gates, or runs by you they're running 8s and you're running 11s. Like, they might be running a 5K, right? They're not running a marathon. They're not going the distance. And this year and next year, like, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. It's not for the faint of heart. As Davidson runs a large home builder here in Colorado, and they've seen numbers change, and people leave, and Jorge as well runs a giant team. Belen, like, all these guys do really interesting stuff, and it took a little while for us to really realize what we're looking at, and this isn't a sprint. It's not a 5K. This is a marathon, and we need to have the disciplines that we're working on. This is discipline, right? Like, this, getting on this call today, going yesterday, that's commitment. Discipline leads to a little bit of improvement, and improvement leads to happiness. It's pretty damn simple. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll, if you reflect back on your journey and your life, and I love one of the aspects that Ben brought yesterday to everybody. Look back on, what you've done over the last 12 months of your life. What have those actions been that led you to have the success or the failures that you've come across? More times than none, it's because we try to focus too much on the outside instead of focusing on, what can I do? How can I be better today? How can I go one more today? Right? The mindset shift in every market, whether it's a good market or a bad market, no matter what it is, the mindset shift that you make by doing just a little extra, competing with yourself, and just keep taking one step after another. It's tremendous, because in the racing world, in ultras, you want to win, right? But you set a goal within yourself to win. I'm not looking at what Courtney Dauwalter is doing or David Goggins is doing. I'm looking at, what is my maximum capacity of training? What do I believe my goal to be when I cross that finish line? And now I'm going to reverse engineer that, bring that back to me, and do everything I can to make that outcome happen, regardless of any circumstance. So, like with the market today, right? Nobody can determine what happens in this market. That's not within your control at all. But what you can control is the way that you show up this next 60 minutes, this next 90 minutes, how you handle that next call with whomever it may be, the attention to detail that you put into what you do today. I think one of the key words that Ben spoke about yesterday, that James, myself, anybody, if you just listen, is intentionality. The intentionality that you have with whatever you're doing will determine where you end up. So for me, example, if I'm training for a 100-mile race and I'm putting in, let's say, long miles, let's say I'm doing 20 miles a day every single day, getting ready for that race. If I'm going out there and just going through the motions, I don't look at my watch, I don't check my heart rate, I'm not intentional with what I'm doing, I'm not going to be my best. I'm simply just going through the motions. And when I don't get the trophy and raising my hands across the finish line because I didn't hit my goal, I would have to reflect back and say, well, wait, was I intentional with every step and every day to get here? And if I wasn't intentional with it, why the hell were you doing it? And so it all comes back to, again, what Ben said yesterday, connecting to your burn, being intentional with everything you do. But to me, most importantly, with those two, making it you versus you in everything that you do. Set those expectations, beyond what you believe possible. I love, James's deal, redefine impossible. Nothing is impossible until it's, let's say everyone says it's impossible until it's done, right? And we believe that in, whether it's a run and the climate goes from 90 degrees to -10 and it's snowing, or it's a crazy bull market and then everything crashes and the rug's pulled out from under you. You can't control the environment, you can't control your surroundings, but what you can control is the war and the fight that you have within you, to be intentional, to connect to that burn, and to make it you versus you. And more times than none, if you can just put your head down and take one step after another with that mindset, you're going to win. You're not going to lose. And if you do happen to trip up, like we talked about my last race, it was a 50-miler. So in my mind, it was like, okay, I'm going to set a pretty high standard for this one because I should be able to really cruise through 50 miles and finish this thing in 7.5 hours. I got to mile 19, went the wrong way, got off trail, went 4 miles or so the wrong way until I realized it, turned around, came back, got back on trail. And when I was back on trail, for a slight moment, and again, we're not all perfect, for a slight moment, I lost my focus and my intentionality. I told myself, hey, you really messed up. Like I was tripping on what was behind me in that moment. The next decision I made was to push harder than I should have. I should have stuck to my game plan. The outcome from that was me finishing it 2.5 hours longer than what my projected goal was. And it was all because for just 20 to 30 minutes right here, I lost focus, and it won't happen again. But it was a humbling moment because it reminded me, A, we're not perfect, but B, you need to focus on intentionality, stick to that game plan, and always keep it you versus you. Don't trip on what's behind you and just keep moving forward. One step after another. And like everyone on this call may be dealing with, you used to put in, let's say, 20 calls a day, 50 calls a day. People were answering, people were doing deals, people were saying yes. And it's easy. It's easy when it's easy. But who can show up when it's hard? Who can show up when it's painful? Who can show up when your feet are bleeding and you still have 25 miles or 30 miles to go? Like, who can keep taking that next step? And from what I saw looking around that room yesterday, which I'm assuming is some of the individuals watching now, is that they were there because they were willing to take the next step, while others were committing to jumping off the ship, drilling holes in their own boat, or believing that they don't have enough within them to be great. And I love looking around that room while Ben was speaking, because you could see the eyes and you could see the commitment that everybody had to doing that little bit of extra that is going to make a massive difference come the end of this marathon. And I know right now it may feel like, this may never end. I can promise you, life ebbs and flows up and down all the time. So
excellent. And just for a little color here, he's mentioned his buddy Iron Cowboy a couple of times, James, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So James is the craziest human I think I've ever met in my life. It's just insane. Jordan's right up there. But you talk about running your race and doing the best version of you. James this year rather, right? This was this year.
It was just this past year. Yeah.
Yeah, this past year. Yeah. He was 46 at this point or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
46 years old and did 100 full, not marathons. He did 100 full Ironmans in 100 days. He did an Ironman for every day, 100 days in a row.
Yep.
So what's in an Ironman, Jordan? What does that consist of?
So you have a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, followed by a full marathon, 26.2 miles. So every single day he was moving his body in the most extreme ways for a solid 15 to 16 and a half hours every single day for 100 days. So,
and there was a gentleman afterwards that it was kind of interesting. He attempted to, he called James and he was like, "Hey, I want to do what you did." I mean, he wasn't very intentional about it. And this guy's like, yeah. I'm going to smash your record, or I'm going to at least attempt to do so. And this guy, I mean, he was a runner, like he'd done some stuff. I don't know that he'd ever done it to the level that James has. But his eye was so focused on James that he ended up doing 7 of them. So he's the second highest record holder in this respect ever, is 7 in comparison to 100. And speaking with James, I'm like, well, like, what do you do after that? Like what'd you do on day 101? Did you go and rage and like get crazy? And he's like, "No, man, I just woke up and I did 1 more."
Yep.
So on day 101, another full Ironman.
Yeah.
And that's the caliber of people that Jordan hangs out with, and that's the caliber of people that we need to hang out with. That's why I'm as laser focused as I've ever been, hanging out with guys like Jordan. We all need people like that in our lives to push us along, right? We all talk about having a coach or coaches. If you look at really good coaches, I have Ben, I have Jordan, I have Gavin, I have a relationship gal with Eunice. I got 2 money guys. I have 2 fitness coaches. There's probably 10 people that helped me along the way. And we don't all need to jump in and commit to having 10 coaches, but we sure as hell need to commit to getting better. And if that takes us getting 1 coach and getting the first person, and Brett Duffy showing up when he's achy after a couple of days of working out and moving around, wiggling around in the gym this morning, like that's what it takes, right? That's discipline. Yeah. So just wanted to give a little color there. And who's this gal? Jordan mentioned someone else, this name. I've never heard of this person until today. Apparently the hardest core ultra person in the world, I was confident it was David Goggins or some big muscly dude. And it turns out everyone on this phone call still knows what a woman is, right? It's a gal. It's a gal from Leadville, Colorado.
Yeah. So there's a lady who lives in Leadville, Colorado. Her name is Courtney DeWalter. And when you create the persona of who you believe an ultra marathoner to be or an Ironman to be, like you create a vision in your mind. If I tell everybody on this call right now, close your eyes, and I want you to imagine what you would look like if you were an Ironman, an Iron Woman. You would come up with something in your mind that says, I'm ripped, I'm stout, I'm strong, I look like I am just pure muscle. Basically, we would all look like Brett. But you create a picture in your mind. Again, you create this picture for 2 reasons. You either create it because you know that you're capable of that kind of greatness, you're just not doing it. Or B, you've competed so far outside of yourself with other people that you're creating a vision of somebody else that you believe it to be because you believe you're not capable of it. But Courtney DeWalter, who is the #1 ultra marathoner in the world, she wears board shorts, long baggy shirts. If you saw her pass you on the street, you would almost assume she was probably homeless. I don't know. She does not fit the bill. But the thing is with her is that she competes against herself. And that's what makes her who she is. Ben said it yesterday a few times, be you, right? Like whoever that is, Be you. Don't try and be Brett. Don't try and be me. Don't try and be anybody else. Be who you are and chase your own greatness. That's what Courtney woke up 15 years ago and chose to do. And today, you know, now you have people buying long board shorts to go run in because they want to be her. But if we could just stay focused on being ourselves, we could all be the Courtney Dauwalters. So, but yeah, it's unbelievable what you're capable of when you are intentional with everything you do, intentional with the phone calls every day, intentional with the unintentional touches that Ben talked about yesterday, giving without expectation of receiving, just understanding what it is you want and being so damn disciplined and intentional with it that there is no choice but for the outcome to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen. So it's neat to watch. It's neat to watch people reach a level of success that they didn't feel possible, all because they woke up and made the decision to just be a little bit better today. And outside of that, whatever they couldn't control, it's fine. I'm going to control the controllables, be intentional, and whatever else happens, but I'll be ready to handle it because of my intentionality when that does come. So yeah, I think all the greats, James Lawrence, Iron Cowboy, Goggins, you know, yourself, Ben, people, you know, Gavin, you figured out how to harness your own greatness and then replicate that day after day. Like Ben said yesterday, what did I do really well over the last 90 days, 120 days, 12 months? How do I take those principles, continue to apply them, but actually, while I'm applying them, go one more? Like, how do I level that up just a little bit? I feel like I'm here right now in this journey and I'm very successful, but I don't want to be seduced by success. So how do I get to that next level? How do I become more intentional? How do I become more focused, more disciplined? Ben says it all the time. Connect to what drives you. If you can connect to what drives you, intentionality, discipline, and all the other factors that it takes to become successful in business and ultra marathons, whatever it may be, those things inevitably happen. So, you know, watching yourself, Brett, it's and being close to you now, it's unbelievable when you get this outside perspective of the daily disciplines that somebody has to create the life that they know that they deserve and that they want. So some kudos to you and your running abilities. For anybody who hasn't heard, you've been working pretty hard on getting to the marathon, and I think you've seen the small steps and how it works and how this growth happens from a physical perspective with your pace simply over the last few days. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think, we always need to be training for something in some respect. And it doesn't have to be a marathon, right? Like it doesn't have to be an ultra. It doesn't have to be anything like that. I personally, I did the 75 hard, and instead of, going back to old habits on day 76, flying down to Tulum and having a party, I decided to start training for a marathon with Jordan. So we're 8 days in today. And that means I got 82 days left to figure out how to do one of these things, right? And it's funny, the whole Courtney conversation came up this morning in the car because I was showing Jordan this pair of the fanciest running shorts y'all have ever seen. They're the lightest short in the world. It's a $250 running short. And he's like, hey, check this chick out. Her name's Courtney, and she runs in board shorts and clapped out shoes. And what did David Goggins say about her?
He said there's not many people whom he would say are more mentally tough than him. But in Goggins' voice, he said that woman is undeniably stronger than I am. So, yeah.
So it's not always about the stuff, right? Is what that leads me back to. I'm like, hey, Jordan, how many times a week do you do cryo? And he's like, once in my life. I'm like, you get like a lot of IVs though? And he's like, no, like maybe like twice ever. And I'm like, I gotta be a lot more disciplined. Like, we don't need all of this stuff, right? We need the discipline to get up and move and sweat first thing in the morning and hit the road, right? It's not always about the gear. It's about it's not about the arrow or the quiver, right? It's about the archer.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes back kind of to the simple principles of, we all have a story. We've all been through something. We all are at different places in our journey. I am not you, you are not me, my heart is not your heart, and vice versa. But one of the greatest things that we can do is realize that wherever we're at today is where we're supposed to be. And now we need to take that next step to get where it is we want to go. Like Ben was saying, grab that dream, pull it to you, understand what it's going to take to get there, and then create the steps to make it happen. But understanding that you can harness your own story, be your own self, and do more than you ever thought capable. I think a lot of people don't fully understand sometimes what they may have been through in their life. A lot of times we like to say, somebody had it worse, right? And that's true. There is people who have had much worse happen to them than I ever have experienced before. But I can't discount what I've been through, and I have to understand my story and my journey to be able to have the outcome that I want. And so truly being where your feet are now, appreciating what you've been through, that kind of helps keep you locked in on where you're going. It helps keep you connected to whatever your burn may be. You can try to finally understand, like, why do I have these limiting beliefs? Why do I believe that, when I write down my goals, here's an example. When most people write down their goals, and I think Ben may have done this with us, ask somebody, hey, get a piece of paper and get a pen. And anyone on this call right now, do this. Grab a piece of paper and grab a pen and write down 2 of your 2023 goals. Go, think big, write them down. After you take that time to write them down, sit back and ask yourself again, did I just protect myself because I have some type of limiting belief that says I'm not capable of doing more, I'm not capable of earning more, I'm not capable of something for some reason? And what you'll find is that if you're not competing against somebody else, you may be competing against yourself in the wrong way. You may be limiting your own self because of whatever part of your story you may not have fully appreciated yet. And you find yourself saying, okay, next year I'm going to close 30 deals a month. Well, wait, I've only done, the max I've done before was 15. Why 30? Why not 35? Why not 40? Where does this realistic limit come from? Why do I have it? Am I competing against, the partner next door, or am I truly competing against myself in the best way, in the healthiest way possible? And so I love ultras because it makes you understand that in life you have no choice but to do what is best for you, stick to your game plan. There's nobody coming to save you, and you have to keep moving your feet. Like you dream big, right? The dream is this coming year, I want to, and I will accomplish Nolan's 14 FKT. FKT stands for fastest known time. Thank you for the hat, Brett. That was actually probably one of the coolest things I've ever had as well.
Yeah.
That you got me. But so Nolan's 14 in my eyes is my goal and my dream for this coming year, 2023. Nolan's 14 is here in Colorado. It is 14 peaks over 14,000 feet over a 97 to close to 100-mile distance. It's outside of Salida and Buena Vista and kind of Leadville in that area. There's 44,000 feet of elevation gain throughout this 100 miles, which is insane. And there is a timestamp of 44 hours or less to do it, to hold the record. We will do it. But the reason we will do it is because my goal before Nolan's was actually less than that. When I look back on my sheet, I actually had, I want to finish a 100-mile race in 17 hours. And I had a conversation with James, and James said the same thing. Is that all you want to accomplish? Or is there actually something more that you are holding yourself back from? And he was the one that said, yeah, you've mentioned Nolan's before. Why not that? And for a slight moment, I thought, well, that's not, I don't know if I'm good enough to do that. I let my limiting belief because of my past and my story creep up. And for that slight moment, I had a conversation with myself and had to silence that inner demon, that inner darkness, and say, hey, I don't care what you believe. It's what I'm going to do. And so I made the decision. I said, you know what? You're right. I'm limiting myself and protecting myself by only wanting to accomplish this, when I know, some people would say, like, that's amazing. Like 100 miles in 17 hours, like that's amazing. But it would have only been amazing to individuals that was amazing too. And that wasn't my biggest dream and my biggest goal. And so that's why we moved it up to Nolan's 14. And I found at the boot camp with Ben and yourself and the other guys that we all find a way to limit ourselves, to protect ourselves, because ultimately in life, our bodies and our minds, they want to survive, right? They don't want to be met with adversity and have to overcome those challenges. Our bodies and our minds just want to live, survive, leave this earth. But that's not what we were put here to do. Every single person on this call right now has a goal and a dream, whether it is in the mortgage and real estate world, whether it is being a better mother, a better father, a better friend. There is a dream and a goal that sits within everyone that they just have to truly tap into and have that intentionality and have that conversation with yourself and say, okay, I'm no longer limiting myself. I'm going big. I'm going real big. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what others believe, because at the end of the day, it's me versus me. And that's it. And I'm going to take every single step to get there. And that's how you have to handle every single situation. I think if you can find a way to remove excuses out of your life, everything becomes better. But how do we go deeper than that? How do we say, how do I remove the excuses that I have? How do I remove these limiting beliefs? You've got to go have a conversation with something that's holding you up, something that you don't even know that's tripping you up. Ben told everybody yesterday, for 44 years or 42 years, it's been 44?
44.
44. So for 44 years, he didn't even realize the thing that was actually holding him back was seeking his father's approval. And it was when his dad was passing away that he realized, I've actually been limiting myself. I wasn't having this deep conversation. And he finally told everybody, like, I finally had this deep conversation and understood where my limiting beliefs were coming from that have kept me from being as great as I actually can be. But there's steps that he had to take to get there, and every one of us have a story. Every one of us have a journey. Every one of us are on our own path, and we're trying to help each other out along the way. And that's why we do these things like this Zoom call and Ben speaking yesterday. That's why, individuals watching this read books and listen to podcasts and try and gain knowledge and try and become better at their craft. But sometimes you got to sit still with yourself for a minute, and you're forced to do this in ultras. You have no choice. There's no running away from whatever demons come up. So sit in the stillness, sit in the silence, and have a conversation with yourself and say, what are those dreams? What are those goals? What are those limiting beliefs? Now, how do I really achieve them? And is there anything or any conversation I need to have that may be holding me back, something in my past, something in my story that's actually keeping me from achieving those? Because I think the greatest tragedy in life, and I tell this to everyone, is getting to the gates of heaven or wherever this life ends, and them handing you a playbook, and you start to read it, and you're looking down at this list of accomplishments and achievements and just full of love and gratitude, and you're thinking, what the hell is this? Why are you showing me this? And then them telling you, this is who you should have been. This is who you could have been had you just made a few different decisions. And so I challenge everybody today to find out what those true dreams and those goals are. Try and dive deep into whatever your story may have been. You don't have to tell anyone about it, but go back and truly dive into what makes you who you are. One of the moments I talked about this morning over breakfast with the guys was, for me, I was 10 years old and my father was pretty abusive. And I had no idea until this last year the impact one of these moments made on me. So around 10, I played baseball. We were playing all-stars growing up in Texas. It's football, baseball, all-stars. We were losing, and I went from the best hitter on the team to the worst hitter on the team really fast. And one day after practice, my dad kept me there. All the kids left, parents took off. He told me to get in the batter's box. I stood in the batter's box, and he started throwing balls as hard as he could. And then they started hitting me. I stepped out of the batter's box, and he, screamed at me, cussed, and said, "Get back in the batter's box. Don't move." Again, kept him throwing, kept him hitting. And it was that moment that I had to go back and reflect on to then get past this limiting belief that 100 miles in 17 hours was my best. It wasn't. And it all started from that moment where I believed that I was not good enough, that I believed if I did try and I failed, that there either would come a beating or there would come some type of adversity that I was too young to face. And so I still had this 10-year-old self me sitting in there, even as an ultra marathoner, somebody who can go run and do crazy shit. But I still had these limiting beliefs that told me, you're not good enough. Don't try extreme things, because if you fail, there's a pain that comes with this that you're not ready to meet. And so getting rid of that protection mechanism and really, really, really understanding how to be intentional has been the greatest part of this journey for me so far. And I can't wait to see what comes. But if I could just challenge anybody today, it would be take those dreams, take those goals, bring them to you, reverse engineer it, but then really look at what you may have been through in your life that's actually kept you from achieving those goals. And sometimes you'll find things that you didn't even remember. And those are the things that we need to look at and truly understand and figure out how to take that next step. But keeping those feet moving is always the key. So that's been a lesson that I've really didn't appreciate before, but it's one that I appreciate today, and I always want to pass on. So everybody has a story, everyone has a journey, and there's something that's keeping you from being great. And with what's going on today in the mortgage world and in the financial world, period, there's so many things and so many reasons to quit. But if you can find the reason to show up today, quit tomorrow. Don't quit today. And I try and keep that as a statement in my mind all the time, is when things get hard, when fears pop up, when you're tired of chasing a goal and you just believe that, you know what, I'm worthless and this is it, no more. I'm quitting. Quit tomorrow. Don't quit today. So I hope these things kind of help everyone understand themselves better. And I think that's the key to life, is understanding yourself better and making this you versus you in every single way possible for the best outcome.
Love it. I was with Ben last week. We were in Mexico, and he was on a Zoom with Ed Milet was giving a keynote, and Ben spoke on it a little bit yesterday, just referring to, there's people watching you, and it's usually little eyes to children. Most people on this call have children, right?
Yeah.
And Ed said something that was pretty damn strong, and I was like, whoa. Ed said, if you're not living up to your full potential and you got little guys around you watching you, that it's one of the worst forms of child abuse you could think of.
Yeah.
Like, if you're wasting your talent and you're not giving it 100% and going all in, like you're stealing from your family, right? Yeah. You're taking away you're abusing your children in that light. It's pretty deep, and it's pretty telling, right? Yeah. It's pretty emotional if you can think about that. What do you, at mile 127, like what goes, how do you, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that goes into this. You eat on a 200-mile race, you down 30,000 calories.
You got to put, so you have to put down some calories. So once there's a pain threshold, just like in life, right? there's always a pain threshold to something. For me, you know, and a lot of people, once you reach 50 plus miles, there's this pain threshold that sets in, and that's where the real battle begins. So if you're going from, you know, even today, somebody who might just be at the beginning of their journey, if they're a 5K to them may be hard, a 10K may be really hard. You're going to have to push past the pain threshold. For some people, it may be a little further, right? During these runs, the hardest part of that pain threshold is getting down food and getting down liquid calories and really dialing in the process. And so, yeah, during these ultra marathons, the hardest part becomes the mental battle, because once you go past 70 miles, even if you're going to, you know, like my running coach, Michael McKnight, he is a guy who does like 800 miles, and he'll tell you the same thing. After a certain point, it just becomes a you versus you in your mind. The pain has already set in. It's not getting any worse. Keep moving your feet. But the hardest part does become getting the calories and feeding the body and keeping that dialed in while you're in pain. And you can reference this to like everything else in life, even especially to business. You have so many things to do, so many things to accomplish. How do I take this piece and put them together when I have 5 other pieces that need to bond? And dialing in everything again just takes being intentional, right? I know that at mile 36, I need to drink, 16 ounces of my electrolyte mix. Like there is no question about it, whether I want to drink it or not. I have to put it down. If I don't, and I'm not intentional with that moment, come mile 45, 50, 60, 70 beyond, you're setting yourself up for failure, all because you didn't want to be intentional in that moment. So it's not always easy. And this is why, like with you, I'm excited to see how you and your body operate while running and drinking and eating and doing these things, because it's just an added layer to the mental fortitude that you're building up and the better understanding of who you are. And kind of like the story with my hands in the freezer with a buddy of mine. So I have a friend of mine who owns a grass-fed beef farm in Florida. I love knowledge. I love learning. I always want to be better in some way. And I went to help him butcher and cut and package and process his meat. I wanted to know where it all came from, the things I'm putting in my body. At the end of the night, he said, "Hey, we have to go in the freezer. Make sure you dress warm, bring gloves, bring all that. And I'll show you how this is done. We'll finish and you'll know." About 15 minutes into the freezer at -14, I think it was, my hands started to freeze up. And I looked at my friend Tony and I said, "Hey, this is probably normal, but I can't feel my hands at all." He looks at me and says, "Yeah, you should probably go outside and, defrost a little bit. I'll find some gloves, come back in." And as I went to turn, I said, "You know what? No." I think I even texted my partner, like somehow with my fingers, and said, "Freezing." But I said, "No, I'm going to sit here until it is quite literally unbearable. And I believe that my fingers are going to fall off, because I want to know what I'm actually capable of. And I want to know that when I'm in the mountains next time and nobody knows where I'm at, if a snowstorm blows in and I'm faced with adversity, that I understand what that threshold is. I've put myself there already in a different manner." And 15 minutes later, I got out of the freezer because I think my fingers were about to actually fall off. But everything in life, I believe, comes down to, are you willing to be uncomfortable intentionally and truly understand what makes you you, so therefore you can handle whatever may come in the future? And if you can find a way to face adversity and challenge and overcome it step by step, no different than a race, the race of life that you're running against yourself will be exactly what it should have been and what it could have been at the end of it. So
I love it. I love it. I want to open it up. Anyone have any questions? Mike, you always got good questions. about a race, about any past experience he's had, about his coach beating Goggins every race. I mean, like there's a litany of stories here.
I'm just curious. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man? Good to see you
Doing
again.
good. Good seeing you yesterday.
You too, brother. I lead a sales team, and I think my biggest question, you're a coach, and how do you what's the first step to getting people that maybe just aren't in this mindset to get started on a journey like this? Like, you are obviously motivated beyond belief. I feel like I'm maybe a 1/100% of where you're at. I'm certainly motivated. I'm doing a lot more than a lot of people, but as a coach, how do you instill that? How do you start that process?
I feel like if we can connect individuals, kind of like you heard Ben's message yesterday, to their burn, you can keep them focused on the outcome that they feel is best for them. I feel like within a sales force, it becomes a juggling match that you're in every day, because you have different personalities, you have different people in general. And what I'm finding is that everyone has something that they're connected to that they won't quit for. And if you can get to truly understand, whichever sales individuals may be struggling, this month or this quarter, get to know them on a very personal basis. I know it's hard in business sometimes, and especially managing, because we tell ourselves, well, if I get too close, there's business is business and friends are friends, and there's a fine line there. But get to know your people as well as you can. Get to know the kids' names, know what drives them, get them to understand, like I was saying earlier, that we all have a limiting belief that tells us we're not good enough for some reason. And if we can help individuals get to a place where they believe they are good enough because of, that block that they may have had in the past is now removed, they show up in life better, they eat better, they exercise, they become healthier in every way. And when you feel good and you start to build confidence in your day-to-day life, you start to show up better at work, and for those that you love. And so I think some of the keys to driving, individuals towards their greatness is just really connecting them to yourself, making sure that they know you care, and you care enough to get to know the details of their life, and to always know that the door is open, and you want what's best for them, and you truly want what's best for them. No expectation of return. I want you to be the best you, and win your day in whatever manner that may be, because when they do that, they feel good, confidence is there, and they show up. They want to show up. And so I think, driving their accountability through their own story is a big one.
Thank you.
And to piggyback off that a little bit, most people talk about it. Most leaders talk about it, and there's very few leaders that like you talk about it or you be about it. So I think in leadership, and it's more clear to me than ever, if like my team won't listen to me, they have it's a lot easier to listen to me now than 230-pound hungover Brett.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way that I'm showing up every day and the intensity that I bring, and they know by the time they see me, I've worked out once or twice, and I'm lucid, and I was up at 5 a.m. and already walked the dogs, and I'm 5 steps ahead of where everyone's at. It's a lot easier for us to convey belief and be more rigid with people and have them really look in the mirror when we're doing the hard stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like when we're able to get up and say, I worked my ass off by the time the sun was up, like it gives you the authority to lean into people a little bit more right there, because you're not expecting anything that you're not doing. Right.
Yeah. And you're right, Brett. If you think about it, a lot of people on here are parents, right? If you believe in yourself, those around you will also believe in themselves, because they see how you believe in yourself. And so a quote, I don't know where I heard it, but it's another one that I always try and replay. I'm a quote guy. Is I never want to tell my children how to live. I just want to show them. And I think it maybe Sal Frisella or somebody said it, but I think it was kind of the other way. I think he said, my child, Enzo, got to a point where he said, you know, my dad doesn't tell me how to live. He just shows me. And therefore it makes me want to either follow those footsteps if I believe there's morals and integrity and it's healthy. You know, you got to be careful with it. Who's, like Ben said, who's watching? There's eyes on you. If it's not children, it could be sales reps. It could be that you're in a leadership position and there's eyes on you at all times. And when there's eyes on you at all times, you have to be the guy who truly and intentionally believes in yourself more than anything, because those eyes are watching. So, and most people can sniff out bullshit too, right? If I'm telling you eat healthy and go be the best you, but you catch me eating every day at McDonald's, at some point you're going to look at me and say, hey, Jordan, we need to have a conversation. You're my coach teaching me how to be healthy, but yet you're eating Big Macs every day. Like, that's not how this works. You got to be authentic and you got to be real. And if your conviction and your belief is so deep within you, you look at these moments and you say, you look around, right? Like, and you assume somebody is literally having eyes on you, even if they're not. And I try and keep it in my pocket. I don't think I have it on me right now, but the one thing I had somebody yesterday ask me, they said, what helps drive you on the days that like you don't want to show up? I have multiple whys. I have multiple parts of my burn, but one thing that I pull out of my pocket every day is this coin that Ben gave us. He makes you and everyone on this call, he makes you believe so much in yourself, because what does he do? He shows up and believes in himself. When I keep this in my pocket, I assume Ben is literally standing over my shoulder with that popping vein at all times. And so I tell myself, what am I doing right now? Why am I doing it? And would the eyes watching me be proud of the decisions I'm making? And would their footsteps be what I want them to be from watching me? And so that's kind of the mindset that I try and, not perfect, but I try and take. So.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You got anything, Raul?
Hey, let me step away. Sorry, guys. I'm watching my three of my four daughters here at the house. So I'm going to step away before they start yelling.
Speaking of little eyes.
Yeah, little eyes. All three of them right now. They're eating eggs and hash browns. So,
Nice.
no, I mean, not so much a question, just so much an appreciation, man. I mean, you coach me. You've been coaching me now for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. For me, it's just been honestly like my days feel just in general way more intentional, the way that I feel every day, every morning. We were talking about sleep, but that's one of the things that you and I've been talking about, like catching up on sleep and stuff like that. And, just in general, you've made it very easy for me to kind of, stop looking at, everything from such a complicated view. It's really, get up, do the discipline, do the small things, and the small things build up. Yeah. So no, I don't have a question. Just again, appreciate you, man. And, I look forward to, however many left of this 90-day, challenge that we have going on. But no, I appreciate you, Brett, for making the introduction. And, this is, I love this. This is amazing. And I think especially right now where a lot of people are in this market or in their lives, whatever it may be, this is crucial. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. I appreciate you both very much.
I appreciate you, man. It's neat to get to watch people's journey. And as we get to kind of dive deeper and I get to learn more about you, seeing the intentionality that from day one until, just 8 days later, it's unbelievable. And I can't imagine the accomplishments and how you're going to feel after 90 days. And like I told you, and like I try and tell everyone from the get-go, the only way to create the life you want, and you're successful. Everybody on here is super successful in some way, but the only way to truly create the success you want and drive that longevity is by taking those small steps, right? My partner and I, we talk about it all the time. The best way to get somebody to eat healthy is by eliminating slowly some of the things that they're not eating correctly, and then implementing healthier foods. You can't, with 99% of people, drive success by saying, stop this now, quit this shit, this is what you're doing, and no excuses. Not everyone is going to take that message and actually create long-term success from it. And so I appreciate you, Raul, staying focused and committed to the process and trusting that if I take these small steps, I'm going to see the result. I just have to believe. That's it. Day in and day out. Just believe in the process and be intentional. So I'm proud of you, man. Very, very proud.
One more. We got time for one more here. Speaking of journeys, how about you, Miss Belen? I can't hear you, honey. No. All right. Duffy, I can see you.
Yo, what's up, Jordan?
What's up, Duffy?
Hey, man. Just reflect on everything you said today, man. Definitely comes down to you versus yourself every single day. I talked to Brett a lot and conversations about that. Woke up 5:30 this morning, didn't want to go to the gym, and I get a text from this guy, get up, let's fucking go. Hearing that is just kind of kicking ass. Like, all right, that's what I needed. But again, like Goggins says too, every day that you do one more, you take that extra step, you're building that callus on your brain, that mental toughness. You're getting stronger and stronger and building that callus every day, which is really important. But you kind of answered my questions, on your rough days, I'll say, what do you do? But kind of in terms of recovery too. So if you're kicking your ass every week, you're doing that one more every single day. In terms of recovery, do you just push through and you just build that callus even more and just push through? Or do you take some time to stretch? Do you just drink water? Like, what's your form of recovery from after everything you do?
Yeah. So what I've found is the best way to recover is to not wait to recover, right? So it is the daily habits that you put in place over time. It's choosing to eat a clean diet and eliminate processed sugars. It's eliminating sodas and any drink outside of water, and just sticking with my water. We go as far in our household as even the soap that we put on our body. Like I only use Dr. Bronner's soap. Like, I'm very intentional with this capsule. I've been given this thing. It's on lease for I don't know how long, and I'm going to do my best to take care of it. And so I think what you can do is start implementing those small steps today to recover now instead of waiting to recover after you kick your ass. My running coach, Mike McKnight, he texted me the other day after my 50 miler and said, how do you feel? And I think it was 2 days later. And I said, I'm great. I said, I feel back to 90%, almost 100% after 2.5 days. And he said, wow, that recovery is really fast. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm choosing to wake up and stick to my routine. I'm choosing to eat healthy. I'm choosing water over everything else. Choosing a set bedtime if we can, and a set time to wake up. So it's just being intentional and really appreciating the things that I put on or in my body have just seemed to help the recovery process so much more. So yeah, focusing on the foods, focusing on the liquids. And I think sometimes too, people think, well, I want to have cheat meals and I want to do this. And I heard a guy named Paul Saldino, his name's Carnivore MD, I think, on Instagram. He said it best. He said, I don't need cheat meals because I truly enjoy my life and what I'm putting in my body. And that's the place that I've gotten to is I love the foods I'm putting in me. I'm intentional with what I'm doing, and the recovery seems to take care of itself if I do the things on the front side that I'm supposed to do. So.
Right. It makes sense though, because if you're fueling yourself on beer and Big Macs, it's going to be a lot harder to recover versus salads, clean, and water. Your body kind of recovers for you versus you having to compete and try to do that extra work to recover even harder too. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get to a point in life where just like you respect your friends and your family and the people you love, you got to respect yourself the same, if not more. Right. And if you don't, if we disrespect people, we normally get disrespect back, and the body is no different. When we respect it, it respects us. When we disrespect it, it'll disrespect us back. So absolutely. It's good meeting you, Duffy.
Good meeting you.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate you. an hour's not easy to come by these days, but you guys are going the extra mile, and this is your one more for the day. So we'll stay in touch. Love you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Jordan.
There you go.